Good morning, gentlemen. It's Active Aussie here, 10:15 a.m. Wednesday morning. This will be about a 7 or 8 minute video. I just want to talk about a few different things. And first off, I was just listening to a video by Ohio Dan, and the title was, I think, my take on being a support check father, and it was basically a sort of tribute video to a guy called Timothy Blades, who sadly self-deleted quite a few years ago now. He used to make videos, apparently. I'd never heard of him. I think this was back in like around mid-2018, that sort of period. But I urge you, if you can, to have a listen to that video by Ohio Dan. I feel this is a topic which is quite depressing, but it really needs to be brought out into the open and openly discussed. It's very tragic that because of the family court system and women, a lot of men have either self-deleted or resorted to acts of violence, extreme acts of violence. And I've thought about making a video in regard to that myself, but I think, just like Dan said, it's very difficult. I'm divorced, but I don't have any kids, so I feel you really need to be in that situation to fully understand it. I did make a video about a year ago in regard to the Sydney family court bomber, and that was way back in like the mid-80s, 84, and I certainly don't condone extreme acts of violence like that, but I can understand how some men can just become so angry and frustrated, and they just end up taking out their rage. It's very disturbing. Just another thing, I've noticed that onefastdak will be having a live stream titled Surviving Normies. So the good old normies, they certainly can be very irritating and hard to deal with at times. And even if you're a MGTOW and you try and keep to yourself, stay to yourself, sometimes we still have to interact with normies. So that could be a very interesting live stream. I'm not sure about the time zone. I'm not really familiar with the Canadian time zones anymore, even though I lived in Vancouver for quite a while in BC, but I think DAC is in maybe Ontario. I'm not exactly sure. I can't remember just for the moment. But anyway, try and listen out for that. I'll try and be around when that's on, and I'll try and participate, leave a few comments, etc. That should be good. Also noticed that Master Yoda, who has a Black Pill channel, he said on a community post that 2 of his videos were taken down for breaching so-called community guidelines. He's a black pillar, but some black pillars I don't mind. I feel they just tell the truth. And Yoda said on several occasions he doesn't hate MGTOW. He's got nothing against MGTOW. But I know that some people in the so-called black pill community don't like MGTOW at all and like to criticise us, call us incels, etc. Goes back to that video I made recently in regard to MSTOW, MSTOW. Some people will say, oh, we are sent our own way, but I made a 10-minute video in regard to that. Just one more thing. This is quite concerning. Some of you Aussie guys may have noticed talk about this misinformation and disinformation bill here in Australia that is before Parliament. I find it very disturbing, and I think that if it passes, it will be used to crack down on people who criticise the government. It will be used to crack down on dissent, and the government will decide what is or is not misinformation or disinformation They will decide what is true or false. And I feel that this could be a problem for men also, men like myself and other guys within the so-called red pill community who criticize women, make content criticizing women, talking about how women should be held accountable. That could be considered as being a type of misinformation, and we could be cancelled out. There was a lawyer on SNA, Sky News Australia, last week in Melbourne, expressing a lot of concern in regard to this bill and how it will be used to crack down on freedom of speech, maybe freedom of assembly. People are just going to get cancelled out. It's going to happen more and more often, and you see this already on a lot of social media platforms. They are self-censoring. It certainly is becoming very bad. I've noticed it a lot more recently. And a case in point, and this is very disturbing. Many of you Australian guys might have heard of the story about the baby at Hanlon Park, Stones Corner here in Brisbane, who had a thermos flask of hot coffee thrown on him on August 27th. And you would have seen the video of the suspect running away. I knew straight away that it was an ethnic Chinese, maybe a mainland Chinese, Malaysian Chinese, or a Hong Kong Chinese. But the media was very reticent to give a detailed description of this guy. It was just a totally evil act, and just looking at this dude just makes me feel sick. I'm not very far from Hanlon Park. It's very close to my apartment. I've been through there several times, gone for a walk through there, and a lot of people in this area are very angry about this, and it's very irritating that this guy got away. I'm very suspicious about it, how he was allowed to drive down to Sydney and get an international flight out of Sydney. It's either just gross incompetence, or possibly this guy was just allowed to leave because the government didn't want to offend China, and there were trade deals pending, like with the wine and the lobsters. Maybe I'm being a bit paranoid in regard to that, but I just feel the whole situation is very strange. It's very suspicious, and I basically don't believe anything the authorities say until this guy is back here in Brisbane and he is before the Supreme Court. So hopefully he will be brought to justice, but I'm not holding my breath. He is in China at the current time, and apparently he has been named by the Chinese media, but the media here in Australia just seems to have forgotten about the whole thing. I've heard nothing about it, and one thing I've noticed many times is that when 7, 9, ABC here in Australia put stories up on YouTube, they disable the comments. Sometimes 7 will leave comments open, but not that often. 9 and ABC, they always disable the comments, and they are purportedly bastions of free speech, but that's just a lot of BS. It's hypocrisy. They just want people to hear their take on a story, and I just find it's very disgusting. I can't stand this sort of censorship within the MSM. It happens all the time. So we're not really living in a free society anymore. Same sort of thing happening in the USA, UK, Canada, New Zealand, obviously. Sorry, I'm starting to ramble on a bit here, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about these issues. I'm still going to be going to Southeast Asia. I've got the money now, and I've got a budget put aside to go travelling, so I will make more videos whilst I'm over in Pattaya or Phnom Penh, and I might even try and do a live stream, so look out for that. I've got to go and do a few things now and take my mother to a medical appointment. So hopefully I can talk to you again soon. Take it easy. Look after yourselves. Cheers.